The next step is identifying an area of practice that you can work on. This is the thing that kills me with attorneys. They say, well, I just can't think of anything that I could. You're licensed to practice law. That's a license to do almost any professional thing other than medical and dental work. You can go out and do people's taxes for them. You could go learn the code and give people advice on how to reduce their taxes properly. You can go, and this is one of the things that I want to tell you to do, go look at the code and find out somewhere in your state code that finds a corporation for doing a behavior. I read this in a newspaper. Brilliant idea from this guy. I think it was in California. So California has this $1,000 fine, I believe it is, that if you send scam emails or spam emails to someone, for each incident, there's a fine for that the company has to pay to the person. All this attorney ended up doing is going and finding people, putting it in the newspaper. Hey, have you been sent spam? Put it out there. And then he just files it in small claims court. According to this article, he was making good money. Now, I don't know, I can't remember, it was so long ago when I read it, but that was genius. What did that attorney do? He didn't go the traditional route. So I'm going to make a distinction here. There are traditional areas of practice of law, and then you have non-traditional practice of law. And you can do either one of these, okay? And you can develop it. So the first part, identifying a practice area, what I would look at is, am I going to go after a traditional area, or am I going to go after a non-traditional area of practice of law? So what are the traditional areas? Well, personal injury attorney. That's a traditional area. I would probably avoid that. And why am I going to avoid personal injury? Because when self-driving cars come out here pretty soon, that industry is going to take a massive hit. That concerns me a lot for personal injury attorney. Number 2, bankruptcy. Well, bankruptcy is something that I believe is, unless you're an expert and you do it all the time, this is something that you have to wait for the time period. You can go and listen to Ray Dalio. He talks about the ups and downs of the market, and it's based upon the debt cycle. And whenever the debt cycle shoots up, then bankruptcies start happening because people have taken out too much debt. And so there's time periods for bankruptcy. The next one is going to be criminal law. It's consistent throughout all time. If you want to be a criminal law attorney, you can make a good practice at doing it. Criminal law can be very rewarding, and if you have mornings available to you and open, so maybe you kind of have an open schedule, you can kind of go do things, get on the wheel. All right, there's an area of practice. Family law is the next one. Family law, there are always need for family law attorneys. You can go out there, if you want to be a family law attorney, you should be your own owner. You should be able to work by yourself. All right, you should be able to go get your own work. Everybody out there is wanting to get divorced, and no one wants to do that work. And so the attorneys that generally get into family law do very well. The next area group is what I do, the estate planning, probate attorneys, also asset protection type work, the transactional work attorneys, okay? This area of law there's a lot of need for it in the sense of there are a lot of people who don't do this stuff. You need attorneys to be able to go out and explain. So that's the traditional routes. I want to give you just an idea. Those are the 5 traditional routes for small practice if you're going to do this. Now, what are untraditional routes? I know one law firm, and all they do is credit repair work. Another attorney I know, all he does is collect overhead and profit for contractors. These are specific areas that attorneys just don't focus on, that once you start doing it, you just go to other attorneys or the profession and say, I focus on this little area, and this is all I do. And you can make a killing if you figure something out. For example, overhead and profit with roofers. So roofers struggle to get what is called overhead and profit. So house is destroyed or roof is destroyed, and a contractor needs to come in and he puts the roof on. Well, in order to put the roof on, he needs to also get his overhead and his profit. 10% overhead, 10% profit. Well, insurance companies don't want to pay it. And they're fighting tooth and nail not to pay it. And so these roofers are struggling. They're struggling to collect it. Well, there's a class action lawsuit after class action lawsuits where these big companies come in, wait 5 years for Allstate not to pay, and then they settle with them and they make a ton of money. But what if you went around the general contractors, and develop a system where you help them collect their overhead and profit. And they just pay you. They'll pay you thousands of dollars for it. Especially if you got so good that you had a system where you did it all for them. That's a magical idea. I just gave you a multi-million-dollar idea. I tried to get into it. I just didn't like it. I just didn't want to do it. After I started doing it a while, I was making probably about $6,000, $7,000 a month doing it. I didn't feel that was what I was supposed to do with my life. So I moved on to the area that I really wanted to focus at. But I'm trying to give you guys an idea of identifying an area. So that's the hard part I have with attorneys, is like they can't think out of the box. They think the traditional, they go, I can't do any of those. Well, then go untraditional. I guarantee your law firm is not going to care if you want to help fix people's credit at night. We don't want to do that. Go ahead and do it. Credit repair is a whole industry. Well, what can you do? You're a lawyer, you can figure it out. Yeah, there's not going to be a manual on how to do it. You have to go read and figure, go to seminars, pay the money to figure it out. But once you figure it out, you're great. You now do something that no other attorney does, and guess what other attorneys are going to do? You just go talk to other attorneys. This is what I do. Well, all right, I can send people over to you. You're not competing with me. So focus on identifying an area. Take the time. Think about it. Go read your code. If you ever come across something, oh look, there's a fine to telecom industries if they do this. Start filing in a small claims court. You'll make a fortune because they'll go, we're not going to deal with that. Just pay it off and get it out of the door. Big corporations not going to go deal with that. But if you find an area, and think about that. If the state legislature has put it into your code, that means big corporations are violating that consistently when they're trying to stop a behavior. So that's my general advice. How do you identify an area? That's what you got to narrow it down. Now, as you noticed, if you listened to my story earlier, I identified my areas constantly. I'm constantly changing and looking at what's going on. If the market takes a downturn again, you guarantee I'm getting back into bankruptcy law. I'm going to get back into it, and I'm going to ride that wave because people are going to stop doing their estate planning. You've got to identify and change with the times. Pick an area. And you don't become so committed to something that you just go, well, this is all I'm going to do. You've got to change with the time. The things are happening. Look what's going on. But that is the third step. Identify a practice area that you can work in and start making some money that you can become an owner of. Like I said, you're still working at your job. Find out if they'll let you do it.